Torah Portion 7, Vayetze. Genesis chapter 28 verse 10 to chapter 32 verse 2. And Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Adonai stood above it and said, I am Adonai, Elohim of Abraham, your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south, and all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Yaakov rose early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bet-El. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Yaakov made a vow, saying, Seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Adonai has been my Elohim, then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give 1/10 to you. And Yaakov moved on, and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Yaakov said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Lavan, son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, Well. And see, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. And he said, See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep, and go and feed them. But they said, We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth, then we shall water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Yaakov saw Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Lavan, his mother's brother, that Yaakov went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Lavan, his mother's brother. And Yaakov kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And when Yaakov told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rivka's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Lavan heard the report about Yaakov, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Then he told Lavan all these matters. And Lavan said to him, You are indeed my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a new moon. Then Lavan said to Yaakov, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be? And Lavan had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And Yaakov loved Rachel, so he said, let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Lavan said, It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Yaakov served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Yaakov said to Lavan, Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her. And Lavan gathered all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to Yaakov, and he went into her. And Lavan gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Lavan, What is this you have done to me? Was it not Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? And Lavan said, It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me still another 7 years. And Yaakov did so, and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rachel too, as wife. And Lavan gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a female servant. And he also went into Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah. And he served with Lavan still another 7 years. And Adonai saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuven, for she said, For Adonai has looked on my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Because Adonai has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too. And she called his name Shimeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now I praise Adonai. So she called his name Yehudah, and she ceased bearing. And when Rachel saw that she bore Yaakov no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Yaakov, Give me children, or else I am going to die. And Yaakov's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said, Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, See, my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well. So she gave him Bilhah, her female servant, as wife, and Yaakov went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. And Rachel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son. So she called his name Dan. And Rachel's female servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Yaakov a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome. So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah her female servant, and gave her to Yaakov as wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a son. And Leah said, Fortune comes. So she called his name Gad. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a second son. And Leah said, I am happy, for the daughters shall call me happy. So she called his name Asher. And Reuven went in the days of wheat harvest, and found love apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's love apples. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too? And Rachel said, Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples. And when Yaakov came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him, and said, Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived, and bore Yaakov a fifth son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband. So she called his name Yissaschar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Yaakov a sixth son. And Leah said, Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Yosef, and said, Adonai has added to me another son. And it came to be, when Rachel had borne Yosef, that Yaakov said to Lavan, Send me on my way to go to my own place and to my land. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service which I have done for you. And Lavan said to him, If please I have found favor in your eyes, stay, for I have divined that Adonai has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Name me your wages, and I give it. So he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Adonai has blessed you since my coming. But now, when am I to provide for my own house too? And he said, What do I give you? And Yaakov said, Give me naught. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come, when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me. And Lavan said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Yaakov, and Yaakov fed the rest of Lavan's flocks. And Yaakov took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Yaakov separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked and all the black in the flock of Lavan. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Lavan's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Yaakov placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so they would conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Lavan's, and the strong ones Yaakov's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. And he heard the words of Lavan's sons, saying, Yaakov has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. And Yaakov would look at the face of Lavan, and see that it was not toward him as before. And Adonai said to Yaakov, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I am with you. And Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field, to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. When he said this, the speckled are your wages. Then all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages. Then all the flocks bore streaked. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it came to be, at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted my eyes and looked in a dream and saw the rams which leapt upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Yaakov? And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Lavan is doing to you. I am the owl of Beit El, where you anointed the standing column, and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Yaakov rose and put his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of the livestock which he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to his father Yitzchak in the land of Canaan. And when Lavan had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols that were her father's. And Yaakov deceived Lavan the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all that he had. And he rose up and passed over the river, and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And on the third day Lavan was told that Yaakov had fled. Then he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night Elohim came to Lavan the Aramean and said to him, Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Yaakov either good or evil. Then Lavan overtook Yaakov. Now Yaakov had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Lavan with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Lavan said to Yaakov, What have you done, that you have deceived me, and driven my daughters off like captives taken with a sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourself that you do not speak to Yaakov either good or evil. And now you have gone, because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones? And Yaakov answered and said to Lavan, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me, and take it with you. For Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Lavan went into Yaakov's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the 2 female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the house idols and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. And Lavan searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my master that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me. And he searched, but did not find the house idols. And Yaakov was wroth, and contended with Lavan. And Yaakov answered and said to Lavan, What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the 2 of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you, I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzchak had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction, and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night. And Lavan answered and said to Yaakov, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these, my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me. So Yaakov took a stone and set it up as a standing column. And Yaakov said to his brothers, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. And Lavan called it Yegar Sachaduta, but Yaakov called it Galed. And Lavan said, This heap is a witness between you and me today. This is why its name was called Galed, also Mitzpah, because he said, Let Adonai watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives beside my daughters, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. And Lavan said to Yaakov, See this heap, and see this standing column which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this standing column is a witness, that I do not pass beyond this heap to you, and you do not pass beyond this heap and this standing column to me for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us. And Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzchak. And Yaakov slaughtered a slaughtering on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread, and spent the night on the mountain. And Lavan rose up early in the morning, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Lavan left, and returned to his place. And Yaakov went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Yaakov saw them, he said, This is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of that place Machanaim. Haftarah. Hosea chapter 12 verse 12 to chapter 14 verse 9. And when Yaakov fled to the country of Aram, Yisrael served for a wife, and for a wife he kept watch. And by a prophet Adonai brought Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, and by a prophet he was watched over. Ephraim has provoked most bitterly, so his master left his blood guilt on him, and repaid him for his reproach. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He was lifted up in Israel. But through Baal he became guilty, and he died. And now they sin more and more, and make for themselves molded images from their silver, idols according to their skill, all of them the work of craftsmen. They say of them, Let the men who slaughter kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be like a morning cloud, and like dew that goes away early, like chaff blown off from a threshing floor, and like smoke from a window. But I am Adonai your Elohim, since the land of Mitzrayim. And an Elohim beside me you shall not know, for there is no Saviour besides me. I knew you in the wilderness, in the land of drought. When they were fed, they were satisfied. They were satisfied, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they forgot me. So I am become like a lion to them. Like a leopard I watch by the way. Like a bear robbed of her young, I attack them and rip open the enclosure of their heart. And there I devour them like a lion, a wild beast tear them apart. You have destroyed yourself, O Israel, but your help is in me. Where is your sovereign now to save you in all your cities, and your rulers of whom you said, Give me a sovereign and rulers? I gave you a sovereign in my displeasure, but I took him away in my wrath. The crookedness of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is hidden. Pains of a woman in labor shall come upon him. He is not a wise son, for it is not the time that he should delay at the breaking forth of children. From the power of Sheol I ransom them, from death I redeem them. Where is your plague, O death? Where is your destruction, O Sheol? Repentance is hidden from my eyes. Therefore he bears fruit among his brothers. An east wind comes, a wind from Adonai comes up from the wilderness, and it dries up his fountain, and his spring becomes dry. It plunders a treasure of all desirable objects. Shomeron is held guilty, for she has rebelled against her Elohim. They fall by the sword, their infants are dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women ripped open. O Yisrael, return to Adonai your Elohim, for you have stumbled by your crookedness. Take words with you and return to Adonai. Say to him, Take away all crookedness and accept what is good, and we render the bulls of our lips. Ashur does not save us. We do not ride on horses, nor ever again do we say to the work of our hands, Our mighty ones. For the fatherless finds compassion in you. I shall heal their backsliding. I shall love them spontaneously, for my displeasure has turned away from him. I shall be like the dew to Israel. He shall blossom like the lily, and strike out his roots like Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his splendor shall be like an olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Those who dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive like grain, and blossom like the vine, and become as fragrant as the wine of Lebanon. What more has Ephraim to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after him. I am like a green cypress tree. Your fruit comes from me. Who is wise and understands these words, discerning and knows them? For the ways of Adonai are straight, and the righteous walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them. Brit Chadashah, Yochanan chapter 1 verse 19 to chapter 1 verse 51. Now this was the witness of Yochanan when the Yehudim sent from Jerusalem priests and Levites to ask him, Who are you? And he confessed, and did not deny, but confessed, I am not the Messiah. And they asked him, What then? Are you Eliyahu? So he said, I am not. Are you the prophet? And he answered, No. Therefore they said to him, Who are you, so that we give an answer to those who sent us? What do you say about yourself? He said, I am a voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make straight the way of Adonai, as the prophet Yeshayahu said. And those sent were of the Pharisees, and they asked him, saying, Why then do you immerse if you are not the Messiah, nor Eliyahu, nor the prophet? Yochanan answered them, saying, I immerse in water, but in your midst stands one whom you do not know, the one coming after me, who has become before me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loosen. This took place in Beit Anya, beyond the Yarden, where Yochanan was immersing. On the next day, Yochanan saw Yeshua coming toward him and said, See, the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sin of the world. This is he of whom I said, After me comes a man who has become before me, for he was before me. And I did not know him, but that he might be revealed to Israel, therefore I came immersing in water. And Yochanan bore witness, saying, I have seen the Spirit coming down from heaven like a dove and remaining on him. And I did not know him, but he who sent me to immerse in water said to me, Upon whom you see the Spirit coming down and remaining on him, this is he who immerses in the set-apart Spirit. and I have seen and have witnessed that this is the Son of Elohim. Again the following day Yochanan was standing with 2 of his taught ones, and looking at Yeshua walking, he said, See, the Lamb of Elohim! And the 2 taught ones heard him speaking, and they followed Yeshua. And Yeshua, turning and seeing them following, said to them, What do you seek? And they said to him, Rabbi, which means teacher, where are you staying? He said to them, Come and see. They went and saw where he was staying, and remained with him that day. Now it was about the 10th hour. Andrea, the brother of Shimeon Kepha, was one of the 2 who heard from Yochanan and followed him. First he found his own brother Shimeon and said to him, We have found the Messiah, which means the Anointed. And he brought him to Yeshua, and looking at him, Yeshua said, You are Shimeon, the son of Jonah. You shall be called Kepha, which means a stone. On the following day Yeshua wished to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, Follow me. And Philip was from Vayetze, the city of Andrea and Kepha. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, We have found him whom Moshe wrote of in the Torah and the prophets, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, Is it possible for any good matter to come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, Come and see. Yeshua saw Nathanael coming toward him and said to him, See, truly a Israeli, in whom is no deceit. Nathanael said to him, From where do you know me? Yeshua answered and said to him, Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered and said to him, Rabbi, you are the Son of Elohim, you are the Sovereign of Israel. Yeshua answered and said to him, Because I say to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? Greater than that you shall see. And he said to him, Truly, truly, I say to you, from now on you shall see the heaven opened, and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Adam.